Okay, well, we're excited. We're excited. We're having a good day here, and we have a wonderful guest with us today, and we have Johnny. So we're gonna have both things going on in real time here. So Johnny, since you've known Tamara for a lot longer than I have, matter of fact, I've got a cool story to relate to you. But Johnny, tell us a little bit about our guests and what we're gonna be talking about today.
Tamara is the basically head of Podium is the easiest way to say it.
No,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
she's her last name is actually Podium. She changed it to Marston, so as to confuse us. But it's a Tamara Podium. Tamara, I've known for gosh, I don't remember when again, everybody
You
I
were
bring on the show, I don't
4.
remember when did I
I
meet
was
you?
5.
We were
Yeah.
children, children in the playground. But we're friends. I really impressed by her. Her casting acumen, her intelligence, her knowledge of, and she has an acting background, which I think is great. I'm going to say this and let it stand. A lot of people in the casting world haven't come from an acting background, and it makes some difference to me, I think, and maybe the end result, who they cast, how they cast. But Tamara she understands beats, she understands acting talk, and she understands who has ability, whether initial great ability or trained stuff. And it's wonderful that she knows that. So thank you for being you, for one thing.
I just can't help myself.
Yeah, well done.
So when you started going back to your childhood, you were a director and a singer. Do I understand that right? And is that
In my childhood? No,
no? I'm
no,
teasing.
later on, yeah.
As a
Yes.
professional, you did some singing in your
Oh.
background, and then go ahead and tell us, how did that start? Was that something that started when you were younger, and then
Can
did
I
you
just
sing professionally?
I sang from the singing is like the longest through line of my whole life. Just music in the family. There's a lot of singing. Can I just get this out of the way? I did do singing telegrams um, in various characters, including Polly Darton. And yeah, I
So
did
in other
that.
words, you showed up at people's houses and parties, and you were the entertainer.
Military barracks.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I've played 100 gigs before, so I've thought, and so I've showed up playing all sorts of places. So I understand exactly. You'd be there, and the musicians would be sitting there going, "Oh gosh, that's a tough gig." So you have a thick skin. Cool, cool.
Was that your survival gig for a while?
No, it was my, young 20s. Just one of many gigs. I was doing theater and going to school still, and yeah,
Yeah.
survival. And then I went on to do musical theater as the other long through line. Done that for years. I started directing a little bit later, maybe about 25 years ago. I started doing some directing and music directing. So yeah, it's all in there. And then I found audiobooks. It's like, well, this is perfect. I'm a tech geek and I love all of this. So
Yeah,
I'm
So
very happy.
we'll get into a lot of things, but there's a question that came up initially that I think is quite interesting. Keith Brown brings up about how do we advocate particularly in romance narration, where this is the real problem, um, equal pay. I know I don't know, I don't do this genre at all, but I know that men frequently make more money for erotica romance narration than do the female counterparts, and that doesn't seem really fair. Is that a thing in the industry?
And, I don't feel, I don't, personally, I don't think there's gender relation. I mean, just like anything else, people who have been around a long time who have, strong credits to their names and are in demand, there's going to be probably a little bit of a higher charge on their end. That's kind of the way it goes. And it's kind of a dicey subject, I know.
Sure.
But I don't feel it's as much gender related.
Yeah, it seems to me that, I mean, I don't know. It seems to me it's experience. For example, I ask for whatever number I ask for, and I've got a lot of books and experience behind me. Others may not.
Mhm.
In other words, if you're brand new, you probably can't get a Scott Brick rate, which, and you shouldn't. And whether
Yeah.
it's not gender based, it's experience based, right?
Well, yeah, and narrators. There's one of you.
well,
There's one narrator, and you can only do so much. And if you're, I know some narrators who raise their rate just because they're too busy and it's getting too much. They want to like stop the flow of offers because it's so hard to say no, and they'll up their rate because they just
So
want
if
to
you're doing a book
push
that
them
has
out.
multiple narrators in it, and so obviously there's going to be a difference in rate if Johnny and I were doing one together and he needed a young man to play a part because he couldn't do that himself, and you had both of us on, I'll bet you would not pay me as much as Johnny. I mean, if you have any sense, you would never pay me as much as Johnny because, yeah, he has about 1,000 more credits than I do, and that's fair because he's paid his dues. I'm up and coming. It
Mhm.
wouldn't make sense for us two to get paid the same amount. Is that close?
This close.
Okay.
Keith, I hope that answers your question. I understand it and I understand why you're asking, but it's not always. If it happens, if two people of equal talent and experience, and the only difference is gender, there shouldn't be a pay thing. But understand that most of the pay given to any narrator is what the narrator agreed to. So if Tamara can have Don and I, and Don says I'll do it for $200, and I say I'll do it for $500, and she says yes to both of us, that's not inequity. That's not it. That's just the deal we made.
Well, it's certainly very important for us too to be part of the union, though. So we want there to. I'm grateful that the union is a part of audiobooks.
Yeah, so there's a floor on it too. You're also not going to say, well, Don gets $20 an hour and Heller gets 500. I mean, because that would be absolutely, ridiculous. So more experience is going to get you more negotiating power at the beginning. And you could say, if Johnny charges twice as much as me, you get to say yes or no and cast somebody else instead of Johnny if his rate were too far out of bounds. Is that close?
Both Scott Brick and Sean Pratt are big advocates and do sessions on this, the power of no. I get offers sometimes and I want to say yes because I like the people who made the offer, and sometimes I just cannot. But if you say no, and Tamara, back me up on this or add to this, if you ask me to do a project and I say, I'll say I'd love to do it, but that time frame is tight for me. Is there any leeway there? And you say no, it's got to be done just now. And I say no because I can't fit it in, not because I don't want it or whatever reason I say no. Is that's not a negative in your mind, is it?
Oh no. I mean, we very much love and respect our narrators and the whole industry. I was a narrator. I mean, I get it. You've got to manage your time. There's one of you, and if you have 150 book offers and you only have time to do 40 books a year, realistically, then you have to draw your own parameters. This is just. What are you laughing at, Don?
I'm laughing at Melissa just put a comment in there that says, I'm cheap like you, Don. that cracked me up. So I'm reading ahead comments. So, but here's the thing.
Cheapy.
And it's true. If I were lucky enough to be cast with a Heller or any other narrator who already has a bunch of experience, I probably am going to come in at a cheaper rate. Like I am going to ask for a cheaper rate than many. While I've done enough to, know, but I'm not going to say I'm doing it for $20 an hour, but I would be at a lower rate than Johnny all day long. And one of the things that the ladies do have to do is make sure that they are advocating for themselves. I'm asking, would you recommend that they're advocating for themselves? How do you recommend that they make sure that they're getting paid what they're worth?
That is it's just a tough question. Like I said, luckily we have, we're a union signatory. We have the baseline. Everybody's going to be getting the H&R. Everybody just has to manage their own career. I think it's the same in that regard as I would think it would be in television or anywhere else. You can manage it a number of different ways. Some people will raise the rate on their pseudonym because their pseudonym's getting too much work. And they want to be able to balance it out a little bit and do some non-pseudonym work. So they'll try to. It kind of helps filter out some of the spicier novels. There's so many ways to do it, Okay. But yeah, you manage your own career. Keep in touch with other people. The best thing about this industry, I love it so much because it is the only industry. I love theater. I did it for years, but audiobooks are a very special community. there is a sense of a rising tide lifts all boats. People are very supportive. They're very willing to share, to recommend one another. I love it. It's very, very supportive. Use it. Just stay in touch with everybody, get the pulse of things, follow your gut, and
since we seem to be on this tack, here's Bill Lord saying he thinks many people are afraid to ask for a raise. Here, all I'll say is this: if Podium says, Bill, I want you for $250, and you say, I appreciate it, but my rate is $275. Let's say that's the difference. They don't know that unless you tell them that. And it is, if you say, if Tamara says, I want you for $250, and you say my rate's $850, well, that's problematic. There's a lot of negotiation room there.
Darn it.
But generally the negotiation numbers are within $50, $75, and every book has a budget attached to it.
Yeah.
If in that budget they can afford to give Bill his $275, great. But anybody who asks for a raise, ask for it. And if they say no, they say no. But if you say, I'm not doing it for less than whatever it is, then you have to be willing to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the number. And it doesn't, I don't think Tamara would think badly of you.
Oh,
so
no.
That's the number. So from now on, Bill's rate is $300. We have to remember that. So we can't give him this back title because we're not going to make any money on it. Let's give him something else that's going to be worth that kind of money for us. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
there
right.
are budgets have to be adhered to, and that's definitely part of the consideration on any project.
So, and I don't think any actor is out of their world by asking for more. I remember when Penguin Random House first contacted me, they offered me whatever the union minimum was, and I said, "Well, I want to do the book, but that's not my rate." They said, "Oh, okay," and they just changed my rate to what I asked for. Now I wish I'd said, Scott break numbers, but I didn't. Hey, there's something Tamara wants to talk about, and I think we've been long enough into this session. We can bring it up. Let's talk about this new casting portal.
It's our narrator form that feeds into our talent database, and I can't tell you how much the casting team here loves it. It's a way for us it's sortable, it's editable, it's fully editable. So you come in and you fill it out. What did you say?
Yeah, I thought I said edible.
Edible. It's fully edible.
That's right. So you can look at it and eat it.
I didn't do my tongue teeth exercises this morning. Editable, so that you can update it anytime. Just check back in and update it. We ask for, it takes about 30 minutes to fill out. It's because it's pretty exhaustive. We ask for, if you say you can do an accent, don't say you can do an accent and not be willing to back it up with a sample. If, we ask for a studio sample, we can get everything out of the way so that, the headshot, everything, your interests, what you don't want to do, what you do love to do, languages, all of that. Put this in there, and that gives us such a huge tool to find you when we are looking for a specific character. We can do a sorted return and get your name, and you'll pop up, and we'll go, hey, I don't think we know that person very well, and we can get to know you very quickly.
So I happen to be on your website. Is there a link on the website to get to this portal?
No, I'm gonna give you the link right now.
Okay.
This is rather new to us. So
are you at podium.com, I assume, or not?
Podium.com is it? No, this is a portal.
Okay, but I mean,
here.
Okay.
It's not there, Don. Let her give it to you.
Yeah, I just lost my screen. Where are you guys?
Yeah, and I can type it in if you.
Hang on just a moment. Why can't I find you?
Because we're hard to find.
Oh, there you are. Okay, got it. All right. Can I type somewhere? Or just send it to you?
You can type in the chat, I think.
Yeah.
See that little box that looks like
a yeah. Here we go.
Cool.
See if it shows up. Then Don can
just cut and paste it. Cut and paste it.
Oh, so exciting!
I've heard of that.
Waiting for a horse race to end. Come on, Podium. We'll get to that in 1 sec, Melissa. I see your question. A good question, but let's get this portal thing taken care of.
I shouldn't call it a portal. It's just our narrator form. It's the link to the narrator form. You create a name, just be able to come back in anytime you want.
Cool. Okay, and if so, I'll make sure even if we don't get it, then well, I'll make sure it gets in the show notes. Okay, so that people can get to it one way.
Excellent.
Or another. Okay.
Excellent. In fact, maybe I can send you.
Mm-hmm.
I can send you an
send
easy
it
way
to
to
me.
get there
Pop
too.
it up.
So,
Yeah.
in
In the
send a
meantime,
link,
Melissa
rather.
asks if Melissa already knows you. You already know me. Do we want to fill this out as well? Do we need to complete the form even though we're known to you already?
I highly recommend it because there's things we don't know about you. We don't, you may do an accent. How would I know that you can
Right.
speak Portuguese if I've never done that? I think it's a definite advantage to go and fill it out. Half an hour of your time. Highly recommended.
Okay. Yeah. So when we get the link up here, and we will, no matter your experience or lack thereof with Podium, you should definitely fill it out. And I always think it's important. I've talked to Julie Wilson a lot about this from Penguin Random House. The little things you don't think people care about are exactly what they do care about. You being a wonderful basketball player in high school or a water polo, just things like you never know what's going to come up. James just came out with Blues Brothers today, and there was an audition for it, and in the audition I put notes in. I know a lot of these people. I grew up in the Chicago comedy scene. That's where I'm from. So I think it helped me bag the job because I had intimate knowledge of many of the people involved, many of the names and all that stuff. And that's maybe makes it easier for them. They have more reassurance that the person doing the book knows what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If it's about, let's say it's a book about someone who does singing telegrams. Well, Tamara's done that. So it's easier to hire her. You know what I mean? All that kind of experience you think is just dues you paid could be the key to getting a gig.
That reminds me of
if you don't tell them. What's that?
There was a book about, I think it was about Louis Prima. I don't know. It was a nonfiction, and happened to find a narrator who was passionate about that. This is many years ago, back when I was at B. It shows in the narration that was the most exciting book because he was passionate about it, and he could pronounce all the names right because he knew the names.
Like Prima. Billy Lord asks, do you have a favorite audiobook that embodies perfection in narration? And I don't know how you put one over another, but is there something that really speaks to you?
I do have a favorite
Good.
book. It's A Gift of Time, narrated by Christopher Lane, and I don't know. I fell into that book. His narration, it was just everything. So that's what comes to mind.
A Gift of Time. I'm not even familiar with it. I'll get it.
Author is Jerry Merritt.
Yeah. All right. I'll get it. Is it a romance? Is it?
No, it's at its root is a kind of a time travel.
Oh, I love that.
But it's very much of a human story. It gets a little sci-fi every now and then. But you get a lot of nostalgia time travel aspect to it as well, which I've always loved.
Can you tell us what about it made it special for you?
Well, I loved everything. I loved the story, but I got to say, Christopher, this is where a narrator can change the way a book is loved or disliked. He was so engaged in it and so engaging. Yeah, he was just the perfect storyteller. It was just like one of those perfect marriages.
Did you ever read or hear? I think it's Time and Again by Jack Finney.
Oh yeah, I read that book actually first a long time ago.
That's one of my favorites. Joanna tried to get me to read it. This is long before I got into audiobooks, and or maybe early then. But and I couldn't. It took me 3, 4, and she kept saying please. So I find it's become one of my all-time favorite books. It's just beautiful, and it's a time travel that takes place right in Central Park in New York here. So it's quite marvelous.
And it's got baseball. So if you're a baseball fan, which I am, it's really cool.
Yeah. It's a great book. I love talking about great. That's what we should rename this thing. Great books. We just talk about books all day.
So back when you were narrating, I mean, how did you get started in just narration? Were you going into studios? Were you doing the home studio thing? How did that all get started?
No, this was back in the 1920s. So, no, actually, I live
When
in,
Johnny started.
I was living in Ashland, Oregon, where the Shakespeare Festival is. And I was doing theater at another theater in town as well. And I knew a lot of the people at the Shakespeare Festival working. Blackstone is located in Ashland. So they were doing a lot of audiobooks. And I went, I'm a huge reader. I love to cold read. I know I can read well. Just sounded great. And like I said, I'm a tech geek. Give it to me. Then B Audio came into town and also started up there in Ashland. So I narrated for them. And because it was a startup, they were kind of things were building and shifting all the time. And I ended up doing engineering for them, and then mentor engineering, and then I ended up casting for them.
And how did you
What's
get
the
the
name
podium?
of the head of B Audio? That guy, I think he's British.
His name was it was James. I'm not sure that he
James.
owns it anymore. I don't remember if he's still James Adams.
That was the most negative human being I think I've ever encountered. He'd send out these, I think, Christmas messages that were just
Oh yeah, I remember
all
that.
about the death of the industry. I mean, woohoo!
I'm
Good
keeping my
times,
lips
good
zipped here.
times. Yeah.
And how long have you been at Podium?
I've been at Podium for 7 years.
Oh, okay. So you're not a
This is
beginner.
my 7th year. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Now tell us the kinds of things that Podium, how did Podium start, and the kinds of things they're doing now, how have they grown?
Oh my.
Yeah.
It started as a 2 guys that started up the company. Greg happened to find online, found a guy named Andy Weir who was putting up chapter installments of his book that he was writing. And Greg said, "Hey, this is pretty good." It got it turned into The Martian. So The Martian is kind of that was what launched Putty and the success of The Martian. And there were 5 of us basically on the team for the first 4 years. And it has grown since then. It's become a whole big company with an office. It's cool. It's a good office. It's a good office. We have marketing department, and we have wonderful team, an incredible team of people. We're definitely it's just on a cutting edge that I just love.
You have a Keurig coffee machine, because I think that's how you know.
Yeah. We have I love the mission statement of Podium, which is to support, to support and develop storytellers. And that includes, that's not just authors, that's narrators too.
That's great.
I love the zeitgeist there. I love this. I just love the company. I always have.
Well, we know you do sci-fi and lit RPG and romance, yes?
Yes.
Do you do YA or other genres as well? Are you getting into more things?
We currently YA when it comes to like children's books, no, but we do have the YA category includes, young adult, new adults, that kind of thing. So there is definitely that audience is tied into what we do. We do some nonfiction, but yeah, the bulk of the majority of our work now is romance. If you want to get in, if you want to get working, that's what's happening right now. Book talk is huge. Romance is huge. Get on the bandwagon.
So tell us.
The reason I ask is not for specificity in terms of all the type, but I want the people watching this to know how best to get in front of you with what they can do. So that's why I want to know the genres, so it makes it easier for them to decide that's for me or that's not for me. So,
well, romance, sci-fi, and lit RPG are huge. Lit RPG is a huge umbrella now. Game lit, covers.
I'm falling in love with
isekai, and yeah, there's so much to it. Progression,
so much fun, so many
anime.
characters inhabit a book.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So if you want us to notice, yeah, that's a nice genre or romance. Send us samples of that and let us know what you're doing. Fill out the form.
So here's the question. So let's say, I'm on your portal, which will be in the notes here, so people can get to that. Go to the show notes as far as on YouTube. So let's say I filled in that. Now the next step should be I contact you, like I find where you live, I come to your house, I knock on the door. Is that the best
Yeah,
way to get a hold of you?
sure. I usually
Sure.
keep a plate of cookies by the door, so.
Okay. Now, after I assume it makes no sense for me to contact you and say, "Hey, I'm a narrator. Please use me," if I haven't gone now to the portal and put in my information first. And then do you want me to contact you, or is it assumed that because I put myself in there, I'm on your radar? Yes,
No,
no?
it's great. Absolutely introduce yourself. I mean, I'm kind of in that camp of casting directors and producers who say, quarterly, give us quarterly updates, but introducing yourself, sure. You may not, can't guarantee a response depending on what's going on at the time, or an immediate response anyway, but we will see it. And that's a great idea to fill out the form first, because it's the first thing we'll tell you to do if you don't.
Okay. And how about, should we get a hold of you on social media? Actually have a story about that, but do you recommend we connect with you in other ways as well?
I don't I don't think that's nearly as effective. I think across the range of people who are in this industry, some want a public face forward, some may be very gregarious in post, but I think there's more of a keeping private life, personal life separate. If there's a forward facing professional account, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay. Well, I have a code. So, by the way, I want people to understand this is the way this works. I sent you on LinkedIn a connection request. We have over 100 common connections. Now, this is normal. It happens to me all the time, and it happens the other way too, but it's just normal. So, whenever that request came in, you probably had 30, 100 other requests come in the same week. And she looks at mine and we may have, we'd run into each other, we know, but there's a lot going on. And that week, that day, she maybe never even looked at it. And then it ends up scrolling down because there's another 30 or 50 or 100 or 200 people that have come in since my request came in. And then it looks like she doesn't love me. She won't connect. And so I could cry, but
Don't
it's
cry.
just so normal to try to get a hold of, make that little connection there. And sometimes I don't even put this, like I might know somebody, but I don't know their last name. And I don't even know what they look like. Sometimes I can't remember. And that's
Well,
just this business. So I would have to, right? Is that how it
yeah,
works for you?
you know what I said about the industry. It's connections are great. I am. This is also going to be a wide variance. I don't live on LinkedIn.
Right.
I go somewhat infrequently, but I do go there. And when I'm there, I usually try to approve all the requests
Yeah, but
because
yeah.
it's, industry, it's community, and especially in
But
this particular
I think it's
industry.
classic and normal, and people should understand. She didn't personally reject me.
I didn't.
She doesn't even know that my request is there, and we have 100 people in common or more. It's more than 100. And still, my request got buried on the day that happened to come in. And what I would do if I really, was, oh no, I would have to, LinkedIn has a thing, you have to wait 3 weeks after I unrequest. And then I would send another request in, and that's fine. And that's how it's going to work. And so don't take it personally if you
Yeah, no.
contact her and she does. Well, wait, you're going to contact every person that sends you a message, you're going to respond to. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. But
Okay.
I love you all, and I really respect and admire you. And also just understand that even if you don't get a response, things have probably been read. I mean, we do,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be normal, though. I mean, how many? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot. You get a lot of requests every week. You get a lot of people trying to connect with you, and you are going to take the time every single day to respond to every message that comes in. I hope.
I would never get books cast if we did.
Okay, so it's normal. So
How
you
many books do you guys do a year or a quarter? How does that work for you?
Um, I don't have those stats right at my fingertips right now. I
I don't need the
can,
exact. I mean, I assume you're getting bigger and doing more. But is
yeah,
there a
it
time that's
changes every
busier
year.
in casting than, like, is
Oh
June a
yeah,
big casting month and September and maybe August is slower? Or does it work like that at all?
I think it slows down a little bit in the fourth quarter, but I think no, we've grown from just me as casting to there's 4 of us now, and we're probably going to be expanding again soon. So definitely growing, definitely keeping busy. the whole team has grown to quite a size at this point. So
Good. Well, that's great. What is
Melissa
this?
asked a question. She's unfamiliar with space opera. I know Podium produces that genre. Can you elaborate? I don't even know what space opera is.
it's
Oh,
like
wow.
drama in space. You're gonna have like Babylon 5 and space opera, dashing, lots of adventure, and there's no singing.
Okay,
Oh.
I was gonna say, good. Yeah. Uh, is that a legit category these days? That
It is.
It
It
is.
is. It absolutely is.
Okay.
Yeah, because under sci-fi, it's one of the sci-fi categories. You're going to get hard sci-fi, dystopian, paranormal. So space opera is like usually it's going to be taking place somewhere in space or surrounded by space, and there's maybe aliens. I mean, it's definitely defines a specific genre.
Okay, and so here's the cool thing. If I really know
Movies.
about it or I wanted to pursue it, then I better understand enough about it to talk intelligently about it and put up some samples that fit that category. Because if
Can't
I
hurt.
put up one that says, hey, I'm in my space and I'm doing my thing, opera, and I come singing into the audition, you're going to think I really know that category well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say so.
Okay.
I think there's just such a vast difference between the styles of narrating, say, romance. And within romance, there's different styles. Rom-com is very different from a contemporary. There's so many subcategories and they're different. So when you're doing something as different as romance and sci-fi, any of the sci-fis, just have samples up that reflect those different styles. Have them on your website. Have accents on your website.
Do you have an area
because
that
space
right
operas
now
are likely to have a lot of accents.
Do you have an area right now that you think if I were coming in new would be wide open because you don't have enough people doing something?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I was reading a comment.
Too, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to get on board. I want to be in the portal, and I'd be curious. Is there a genre that right now you need more people for because nobody's going for it? Is there a hole that you'd like filled?
I wouldn't call it a hole. I think the demand, romance. If, like I said, if you want to get a foot in the door right now, romance is a pretty safe bet because
Okay.
that is the leading genre for us right now.
Okay.
But we're always looking for more voices in the lit RPG. Learn about lit RPG and game lit because there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Wuxia, Shansha, all the subcategories of that. Check them out. There's something for everybody. There's literally stats if you're really getting into the lit RPG aspect of it. Sometimes there'll be stats in the book because it's based on role-playing games. That's what the RPG stands for. But that's the tip of the iceberg. So
Okay.
Where do you find most of your the authors?
Podium works only with independent authors. So it's a whole different route to that. You'd have to get our acquisitions team on here.
But so
really
let's say a
get in depth
narrator
about that.
an author has done something and the author wants to get their book out and it's in a genre that Podium does. Would you guys be open to hearing from that narrator to bring the author to you to bring the project?
I'll stick my neck out and speak for acquisitions to say, sure, there's never any harm in reaching out, is there? Never any harm.
Okay. I'm just curious because I mean it happens sometimes. I get calls and that sort of thing, and I'd like to be able to steer them to the right place. So that's always just good to know. I know that you're not in acquisition, so I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I'm on the spot, Johnny.
But you would just pass that over, and really somebody should go to acquisitions as opposed to casting because you're not worried about you're worried about it after the book is in your system, and now you're looking for the people to do the narration. So you would be passing somebody like that over to the acquisition side of it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And most of the casting directors I don't want to say you care less about that. You want the other people to do their job. So
we care very much.
Yeah. And so what do you see coming up here soon? So romance is the biggest thing. And but the order that people go about doing this, do you have any insights in that?
The order of?
Well, so I always advocate for the new people that aren't on your system already. So I'm going to fill out your portal. I'm not going to contact you because or I'm going to contact you quarterly is what you want to see. And what updates do you want me to send you quarterly?
Well, when you when you fill out the form, drop an email. Let us know you've done that, and tell us about you. That's a good time.
Do I send it to you personally, or is there an address that
Casting
casting?
at podiumaudio.com. That will go to all of us on the casting team.
Okay.
Do you, in your casting in the genre of romance, do you break it from the different kind of romance subgenres? I mean, I know there's erotica, and I know there's harem, and there's mafia, and there's Irish, and there's all kinds of things. Do you break it down that much?
In terms of defining the books?
In terms of the genres you need, yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. And those rise and fall, with what's going on in popular. The dark romances, the fantasy romances, which tend to be epic, those are big. Yes, mafia romance is big. Shifter romances have become a thing.
Can you tell me what that is?
Like us, well, you got your simple shifter, Johnny, which is like a werewolf. Everybody knows what a werewolf is.
Oh,
But these are independent authors with fertile minds, and so we've got all sorts of different kinds of shifter. I did a polar bear shifter. I cast a polar bear shifter the other day.
Wow. So you're okay. So now I understand. I mean,
you don't want to probe too far down this.
No,
it's a romance.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious because I know there's a gazillion different genres under that umbrella heading.
Yes, there are.
And I find it fascinating because I'm so unfamiliar with all of them. It's interesting to me that there's so many.
Well, you can see them really quickly if you go to Audible and pull up, just pull up, you see romances, and then click underneath there, you'll see all the subgenres.
Yeah.
They do that well.
That's good advice. See, this is what I'm pulling from you.
Aha.
So I want to talk about
those are the ones you should
So do you think the business will go to multicast type things where you have, are you primarily doing one narrator for the whole book? Are you looking at the dual narrator or multicast type thing moving forward?
We do a good number of duels and duets. Duets is where both narrators are narrating inside a chapter. They narrate the dialogue of their point of view character. There's one main narrator, and then in dialogue, each represents their own. So there's that kind of narration. And then duel is just when there's one narrator per chapter, maybe alternating point of views. That happens a lot in romance. Did I say duet the first time? Duet is the one where you're
I always get those terms mixed up. So
I haven't had coffee, but y'all mostly know this anyway. You can find out. Write me. I'll explain.
Okay. And do you see, is that the future, or is the future?
Oh, it's going on. Multicast has always been around, but when you get into larger cast things, we don't really do the full cast productions. We did Wake, which was a wonderful experience. Look it up if you're not aware of that. I don't think it's all out there already. And they all have different budgets. So, any producer's going to be thinking about that too. Multicast is a whole different critter. It's a different critter for the producer. It's a different critter for the listener. So
I'm looking at Rebecca.
What?
Duel is two people in a gunfight.
That's DUEL. Yeah, we don't do duels. Yeah. 10 paces.
Yeah. Johnny would be the fastest on the draw there. So he's going to.
Well done, Rebecca.
Yeah. And then, so Shifter series shifted into legendary and mythical creatures. That's cool. That's over my pay grade there.
I don't know if a polar bear is a legendary mythical creature, but
Yeah, they're not mythical.
Well, all stories, though, really, there's only a certain number of stories, and now there are variations on them. So
exactly.
It's just going to be, I'll bet that there are going to be more things: werewolves, polar bears. There will soon be seals. There will be,
balloon animals.
Rats.
It's been done.
Balloon animals. Yeah, rats. That's just the authors have to come up with something, and some of them are going to try something and see if it sticks. So, yeah. Are you're hiring most people? Does anybody come into your spaces? Where are you located, by the way? I don't even know that.
I am in Oregon. The
Okay.
offices for Podium were centered in El Segundo, California,
Oh,
Los
that's
Angeles.
close to my home. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, we
So
have
do you
some
have
some
do
folks
people
in
go in
Canada
there?
still.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Do people go in there and record, or is everything primarily from home? Which you're doing both?
Home recordings. Rarely we use outside studios, but it's usually almost entirely people with their own studio setup. Narrators can come and visit us. Just drop us a line. We'd like to have narrators come visit the people in the office.
Are you ever in the El Segundo office? Do you ever go
The
there?
once or twice a year, I'm down there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, look me up when you're in town. Anyway, different discussion. Different discussion. All right.
Don.
Yes. Not that far away. I could be there in a little bit.
What are some of your pet peeves you find narrators do that are irksome, if you can share those?
The very, very worst thing is to not be communicative. I'll make that twofold. Not do what you're contracted to do. So being late with files, it really throws everything off. There's a whole process going on there in terms of getting the artwork, releasing the audiobook, getting it up on Audible. And so when the narrator is late, sometimes it's unavoidable. Things happen in life, and we do understand that. We flex with the reality of that, but sometimes it's just not good time management. Not being communicative is really frustrating. That may be the most frustrating thing for me anyway, as a casting director, to be waiting on somebody to answer an email where I'm offering them work, or halfway through the conversation they disappear. If you got to be gone for a few days, just let me know you're going to be gone, or but sometimes when it takes days between each email, that pushes us off our schedule. Again, we're writing with good news, some kind of good news for you. Right back. The other thing that annoys me, websites that don't have any information, websites that will narrator websites that will I go to it and it has a series of tiles of the audiobooks on Audible you can click on. Well, I can click on those myself on Audible. I'm looking for specifics. I want to find out more about you. I want to find out I want to hear samples of different genres. I want to hear samples of different voices, accents. There's a lot more. There's some great websites to take a look at. Don't take the easy way out. And it's easy because once a website's done, it's there. It's just there. Just get it done.
So in addition to being in your portal, then you're going to do a secondary due diligence and go ahead and check out their website if you don't already have contact with them. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a main way that when we're spelunking, as I call it, when we're looking for specific narrators or looking for type, we definitely find a lot of people through their websites. Yeah, absolutely. Websites are really important nowadays.
And can you follow up anything else that irks you about somebody trying to work with you, or quote, not
you want to make me sound cranky?
No, it's helpful because
we know you're not.
It's helpful to. By the way, Tamara practices what she preaches. Because every time Johnny and we book people a month or 2 or 3 in advance sometimes we're booked out for multiple months here. So about a week before, I send a message out to them. Hey, by the way, I know you haven't heard from us in 2 months because that's when we talked to you about doing the show. It must have been 15 minutes later, I got a message back from her. It came back so fast, I almost missed it because she practices what she preaches. Like, she wants you to communicate back with her. She saw my message. She knew about the show. She responded within an hour of the time I sent the message. She just said, "Oh, I'm doing this show. I'm going to." And so what she expects out of other people is that they are going to respond back to her if she's communicating with you, get back with her quickly, because this dead air stuff and we get it all the time. We book someone months in advance and then they don't talk to us. And then the week before, then they still don't talk to us. It's the day before. So
yeah.
If you have somebody like that, that's like you, and then I'm on the other end of it and I don't respond, you're going to think really highly of me, correct?
Well, it definitely reflects on, this is like any business. We have to run on trusting people to hold up their end of the bargain, and communication is just key, like it is with so many.
Chris writes a question that kind of brings it up. What is your process for setting a timeline for an audiobook project? And I know each project is specifically different, but in a general sense, what is the timeline like?
You mean in terms of getting the book completely produced?
Yeah, okay. You've got it. It's in your hand to cast. You're going to send out for casting. What's the process?
In terms of timeline, that's not something I could cover right now because there's too many steps in the process now, and there's other departments that handle those kind of thing. You know, everything from the covers to obviously the production end, get to the engineering, marketing. There's all sorts of things that go into that. So I really can't answer.
Let me see if I can phrase it in a way, or ask more specificity here. If you hire Chris or Johnny or Colette and these people to do a book, once you've and you say, okay, I've got this book, they say yes, they've agreed on the rate and the deadline, whenever it is, 2 weeks or 2 months down the road, whatever it happens to be. Once you've done that and your casting team has done that, do you pretty much not think about it until it gets closer to the time that it's due? I mean, you're hoping it's being done?
Oh, well, I could tell you in terms of the casting, when we do our casting process and we get that casting part done, we kind of hand it over. We hand you and the project over to your producer, who's going to be heading up the project from there out. He's going to be the interface with you, he or she. So at that point, we only hear back about that project if something goes wrong.
Right. Okay.
Somebody's not showing up or they're not delivering their files, and sometimes we have to recast, and that's the thing we hate the most.
I will say, in terms of what you brought up, communication as being a really big issue. And I found that true in every job I've done. Most recently, I remember I tried to get back from LA. I had to do a book. I was going to go to Macmillan to do it because I like going there because they have lunch. But I had a flu, I had a temperature. So I said, I'm not going. And I did the book. I found a way to work around it, but I let them know every step of the way. I asked for an extra day, which I've never really done. And they said, no problem. And I got it. It was due on a Friday. I gave it to them on a Saturday. But I kept them in the loop all along. So there was never any, and it was no, if in my way of thinking, if a book is due on a Friday, I think the expectation on your end is that when you get to the office Monday, everything's there. Because Friday goes all day. I don't know, but so I'm thinking I try to add the weekend in if I need it. So I was not done Friday, but I was done Saturday. But I kept them apprised.
That's it. It's just things happen, and we narrators are humans with voice boxes that are not, are not a machine. And things happen. You get sick. We get that. We understand it. There's almost always room to work with you if you're communicating with us. But you have to, it's the days of silence that it hurts. It hurts your reputation. And
Rebecca has a wonderful question here. There it is. Can you read that?
For dual narration titles, do producers like to be copied in the correspondence between the narrators? That's something to handle on the production end. When we hand things over to the producer, they will start the production thread with the narrators involved. And so at that point, that would be a question for your producer.
So I should ask them up front, hey, do you want to be copied when I'm talking with my other narrator? You obviously, that production team, I assume, wants to know that they are communicating so that we're not in a different world.
Yeah, that'll be part of the process that the producer will walk you through in terms of what they want from you.
Okay. So that's pretty cool. Johnny?
Yes.
Next. I like how he answers that directly. Yes, sir, is the proper way to phrase that, sir.
Well, I think, here's the thing. Because Scott Brick and I had the business workshop in LA recently, and Tamara was a guest. I feel like I've gone over this just a week or two ago, and I want to rehash things. So I'm hoping that those in the audience will bring up more questions. I know that
I've forgotten it all anyway, John.
Yeah, I know that our job as business entrepreneurs, as actors, is to make the casting directors and the publisher and the producer's job as easy as possible by not being a problem. when Tamara mentions this casting portal, the more you tell them about yourself, the easier it is for them to cast. And I think one thing that's come up again and again is I'm not certain that the actors understand that the casting people, the publishing people, the producing people not only want you to get the job, but they want you to do a great job and are there to help you do so. I think there is in the acting community, a built-in difference of opinion on what the casting director is versus what you are. I promise you, every casting director brings in people they think can do the job and want to get the job, and they want the best possible person. And if you don't get hired for a given job, doesn't mean you're not the right person. Tamara and I talked about this. If there's authors are involved in the casting all the time. So if Tamara says these are the 4 best people, I think, and the author wants number 5, they have to deal with that. So you watching and listening have to understand that there's no animosity, no anger, no issues. The Tamara and Tamara like people want you to get the job. There's not, and to make their job easier, don't be a problem for them. Simple as I can say. And I think you have to understand that when they reach out, sometimes they reach out for an audition. Well, do the audition. There's no actor I know who shouldn't do an audition. Actors have to audition. I've met some actors in this business who feel it's beneath them to audition for a project. And I find that reprehensible, just crazy. I think it's nuts. Have you found that in your experience at all? People saying no?
Once in a while. It's rare. Very rare.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I have a question as far as that whole thing goes. Are you seeing more and more authors, like, do you get to make the final decision on them in your company, or are the authors, how involved are they in the decisions these days?
It varies. Sometimes we make the call, and other times we run them by the authors, or sometimes we just say, hey, I want to put this pair on there. Thumbs up, thumbs up. It's changing. There was I forget who said this, Johnny, maybe you remember, I think it was in your panel, but they were talking about how that's really changed. That 15 years ago in the business, I think 15 is even safe. You would have, casting an audiobook was a big deal. You had a table read, you had a director, you had a producer, it's a very different animal now.
How often are the narrators involved? I mean, how often are the authors involved in the casting decision today, on average?
I couldn't even tell you a percentage split, but we work with independent authors as well. So I'm sure I couldn't answer to some of the PRH or the people who have mostly agents or dealing with agents.
How about you?
The proportion?
Maybe. I mean, just roughly, is it 30, 60? I mean, most of the time, do you get to make the decision, and most of them are listening to you, or they go off the deep end?
I think things have shifted into most of the time the author wants to be involved on some level. They want to have some say in their project.
Okay. And most of them are smart enough to listen to you if you think that one, I hope.
Almost all of them. That's part of our job too. These are some indie authors don't even really know much about audiobooks. So yeah, they rely on our experience and know-how, and it's a partnership.
Okay.
When you get samples or website demos from actors, what do you want on them, and how long do you want them to be in general?
Hours?
I'm sorry, website demos?
Yeah,
hours. Demos.
If you're putting them on your website, I like, we're not going to listen past, probably 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to do 5 minutes of a romance book. If you want to use that much time, break it into different aspects of romance. Here's 30 seconds of a rom-com. Here's 37 seconds of a paranormal romance. Break it down. Same with accents. Some people put an accent reel. You could do that as long as they're somewhat short. But then I'm searching if I need to hear what your
Italian
Spanish. I like them labeled. I'm a fan of as many samples as you can fit that doesn't look ridiculous on your webpage. Clearly labeled, sorted however you want. There's a whole different seminar about.
I think it's important for those watching, that if you're going to say that you do an Italian, a Portuguese, a Spanish accent, don't put the narrative in front of it. Just get to the accent right away, because
Yeah.
no one's going to spend the time going 2 minutes in when the Portuguese guy says something. Start
Yeah.
with the Portuguese guy saying
I think
something.
that's just in general, just understand that, yes, it's true. We're a casting director or producer are not going to be listening to a long segment. If you're not hitting them within the first 10, 15 seconds with what they're looking for, they're probably going to click off. You have a limited range to make your impression.
And that's why you need to have multiple samples that are all segmented into the different things, so you can search on them and you aren't not wasting your time, because it sounds like you don't have a whole lot of time to find somebody if they're not already familiar.
Yeah, well, it comes back to what Johnny said. Just make it easy. Make it easy for the casting. We try to make things easy for you. This is part of that community that I love here. Just think about that. Think about making it easy for each other. How can you best? Because I'm making it easier for the casting director, you're improving your chances. So
In your new casting portal, which we will look at, or link, whatever you call it. I don't want to call
casting
it
narrator form. It's the
narrator
form.
form.
Narrator form.
You don't like casting? Okay, narrator form. Are most of the folks filling that out just linking to their samples already on their site, or they are creating new and different samples specifically for Podium?
You can uploading is so simple now. You know, 10 years ago, this would have been a big hassle, 5 years ago, but now we do have an easy upload. So you can just drag files from your computer, drag existing files, and we try to keep them, have them actually present on the database. Because then when we're scrolling through, we can just click on it, we get to hear it.
Okay,
I remember when I started with Claudia Howard at Recorded Books way back when. You come in her office, and on her desk would be piles of cassette tapes. I mean, hundreds of them every week, and she'd have to listen to bits. Remember those? In those days, you had to give them a physical thing. There was no.
Oh, 8 tracks were the worst, though. Can you imagine?
What's that?
8 tracks.
Well, I remember we were reel to reel. Yeah, we had reel to reel for a while. You had to cut and oh my God, that was a long time ago.
I'd also remember, this was back with me. It wasn't that long ago, where uploading an audiobook could take, depending on what process you had to do, could take as long as the audiobook itself.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
It was slow to process, slow to upload.
Yeah. I'm glad those days are behind us. I'm glad to have lived through them, because it gives me a different feeling about things. Let's see.
So
Bill Lord,
yeah. Sounds like narrators similar talent are being considered. It's a level of professionalism that'll get you the job. My first take on it is the level of professionalism also gets you the next job, and I think that's almost as important. Is that close? I mean, if
yeah, for sure. I mean, if somebody's a pain in the neck, we hear about it. You almost guaranteed that the department will know.
That's why I don't get recast. Is that what you're saying out loud? And then, are you guys specialize in long books, short books? See, let me give you the answer to this question. Somebody should, if I really wanted to know this, I suspect I could go to Audible and I could query and see a whole bunch of stuff that you guys have done, and I'd have a pretty good idea if you're specializing in short books, long books, or something else. Is that correct?
Really, it's really all over the map.
I think what Chris
genres.
What's that?
Genres also are different. I mean, an average 10 hours is considered sort of an average audiobook for some things, but then we have the Wandering In, where the books are 35 hours or more. Okay. Because there's these long, big, huge fantasy world that's been created. Yeah, it's.
I think Chris is after how long does an actor have to do the book, and I'll say basically that's what you negotiate in the beginning. Generally, when you're offered the book, the due date is there. If you can't do the due date, you need to discuss it in negotiations, because once you say yes, then that's the due date.
Yeah, and we can be usually our style at Podium, the way we handle things enables us to say, here's the book, here's the details, and we need this recorded optimally in June.
You guys do a lot of simultaneous release?
We do some, yeah, definitely have some.
So that makes a difference in how much time the narrator has.
Right.
it
Absolutely.
has to be available the day it's out. So
Yeah,
you
but
can't.
we're
you can't
not, you know, a few years ago, you know, several years ago, I know working at B, it was like, we need this book and we need it by the end of next week. That's not Podium. You're
Yeah.
not going to
Well-
you're not going to hear that from us unless it's something urgent that just came up.
So that means though that if you have a 10-hour book, is that usually something that's you've got 2 months to do it, 4 months? I mean, what's realistic on a 10-hour book, or they are all different?
It's too far across the map, Don, to say. I think we are able to negotiate with the calendar. You know, we'll tell you when we need it by. If you need an extended period because you're taking a vacation halfway through, which I don't recommend as
Yeah.
to a narrator,
Yeah.
you know, we can usually work with that. But yeah, we'll have a date that we, you know, we kind of need it by now, you know.
Okay. Well, as we're closing out there, anything you want to promote? Anything you want to tell us about that's up and coming? Anything exciting that we should be paying attention to?
Oh, I should have been thinking about that, huh? The Narrator Forum, that's what I'm all about right now.
Good. Okay.
We got some just wonderful romances, sci-fis. Listen to the spread of all these genres. Get familiar with them because I think it will, for you as a narrator, the more you know, the more options you have, the wider your field's going to be. Don't just get stuck and run and say, hey, I'm a voice. I'll do anything. You know, I can do anything. I'm capable of doing anything. Learn about them. Check it out. Look at all the different subgenres. Go to if you just put in Podium Audio and look at all the genres and the subgenres, you'll see them on Audible. You know,
This is great.
And-
Well, thank you for joining us and being a part of this. It's been just you're just wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I think you're wonderful too, Johnny Heller.
I'll go on with you.
And you are too, Don. This is my favorite part. I love it. I just love this kind of communication directly with folks.
Yep. And Mr. Heller, thank you for being here. And I will tell you, of all, not to say anything about any of the other people, you were absolutely the most professional person responding to emails that over the life of the show. You shocked me as to how I'd send a message and how it came back to you. What I guarantee you, if you guys are working with Podium, do not ignore the emails, the messages that come through, because you have, but that's, so the first thing that came to mind is after I saw, you know, how quickly you responded. If I were working with you, I'm an idiot to say, oh, I'll get to that tomorrow. I would skip, you know, if it's dinner time, I would stop dinner and respond, because that's how you are. You communicate. And if somebody does the opposite, you know, it instantly clicked in my head. And that's kind of one of the things that we're all having to watch for. If I send something to Heller and he takes a day to respond, and that's his style, that's fair, that's the way he works. But I would be crazy to be working with you and not be responding in as close to real time as practical. That doesn't mean instantly, because I see that you're that way. And that clicked right in my head, like after the second communication, how quick you were. It's like, oh man,
I'm
I
glad
like this
that worked
person.
for you, Don. I'm glad.
I like
I'm
this
kind of
person.
shocked that you're shocked.
I like this person.
Before we say
Well,
goodbye, Don, are you
yep.
gonna we be able to post the Narrator Forum? And where would that be posted?
I'll make sure it's in the show notes for the YouTube channel. Be sure to just check in the description there. I will have it there within the next 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And of course, I'm doing a live tech show at, I always get the times wrong. So check the, you'll see it coming up here. But I believe it is 2 o'clock Pacific, which you translate that into 5 o'clock Eastern. It's just all about tech, anything tech related to narration and voiceover. Be sure to join that show as well. Anything else for you, Johnny?
No, just the things that are on my my webpage, the New Orleans workshop, and I'm not sure about anything else right now.
Okay. Do we know next week? I think we have Paul Rubin. Do I have that close?
Paul Rubin next week. I'm going to go
Okay.
see him for lunch in a minute.
All right. So thank you for attending. And Tamara,
Thank
thank you
you
for being on
for
the
having
show.
me.
Thank
You're
you.
awesome. You're awesome. I appreciate it. And for all the rest of you, you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the wires. Bye-bye.
Bye.